Okay, so it's over to me, and I will take it up and talk with the thing that I have watched. And I have finished watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Now, Sean, I don't know if I'm not sure if you ever saw Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but this was a. It's, I wish did you ever have you ever watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
No, I haven't, but I've heard of it obviously, and I've seen it. So
Okay, so Brooklyn Nine-Nine is it's a show, and the whole idea it's a comedy show, and the whole idea is that it's based in a police station in a police precinct.
Toes,
Yeah,
was there a thing called Reno 911 as well?
there was a
Was
show called Reno 911.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that was. Ooh, oh, good lord, that show is probably almost 20 years old now.
Oh
It's
God.
probably almost 30 years in. But yeah. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine is set in a fictional police precinct in Brooklyn. So there is no 99 precinct in Brooklyn, but that's where it's set in. And when you're introduced to the characters, though, this is season seven I'm talking about. Is the seventh and final season I'm talking about. When you were introduced to all these characters all the way back in season one, you had Andy Samberg, you have Terry Crews, Melissa Fumero, Stephanie Beatriz, and Andre Braugher, and it's essentially a workplace comedy set in a police station. And I remember saying about this show, I remember saying to somebody, they were like, okay, what are the new classic comedies? And this was probably around about season two, season three. I was like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and they're like, no way, talking about Brooklyn Nine-Nine, no way, no way. But but now I think it is largely accepted that Brooklyn Nine-Nine is one of the gems of modern comedy, and it's quite difficult, I think, to do comedy well. It's quite difficult to do a comedy that, like, carries on and actually has something to say and all that. But Brooklyn Nine-Nine nails it. I mean, the characters that they have and the way they all bounce off it against each other. Lo Truglio as Boyle or Captain Holt. You have Scully and Hitchcock, and when you have a show and you just have a cast of characters, and the characters are just perfectly formed and they perfectly play off against each other, where you
Yeah.
could just sit down and watch these characters be these characters for ages. Like, I think in some of the Marvel movies, some of the Avengers movies, they've hit that balance just right, where you're
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
don't care if you have a bad guy to fight. I mean, I just love hearing you guys talk to each other. And the same thing that they do with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And in the seventh season was one that was interrupted by COVID, and then Black Lives Matter happened. And as you can imagine, the public opinion about what policemen are like in America changed. So they had I said apparently they had finished filming about 4 episodes, and they had to scrap those 4 episodes, and they had to go, what is this show now? Because of everything that has happened, you have the racism things, you have police brutality, you have the fact that police are not exactly they're not exactly the upstanding citizens that you think they are. How do we actually tackle that? And I think in this season they had a very, very difficult job to do, making a show that was a comedy with all these knockabout characters in the wake of Black Lives Matter in America. And I think they nailed it, because
Really? Yeah.
they actually go and they address a whole bunch of things to do with police brutality and police corruption and all that. And you have police officers who have been police officers throughout the whole of this show, and they say, I can't be a police officer anymore because we're not doing anything. We're part of the problem. I just can't keep doing it. And I think that but at the same time, they stay true to the characters. They bring in motifs from earlier, and because it's the final season, they have cameos from characters from previous seasons, and they bring them back in ways that just left a big stupid smile on my face. I mean,
Oh, that's good.
when Chelsea Peretti shows up as Gina Linetti again, you're just kind of like, oh, of course they had to bring her back. And there's certain things that they just do in this season that just make me think, I'm gonna miss this show. I'm really gonna miss this show. And I
Oh,
think the Andre Braugher, because he plays Captain Raymond Holt, who you find out quite early on in the first season. He's a captain, and he's the new captain. He's no nonsense. He has pretty much no sense of humor, and so the things that you find out about him, that he's gay, he's black, he has no sense of humor, and he's like, and he's been held back in his career because of being black and gay.
being back
And
in gay. Yeah,
but
makes
the
sense.
fact that when you get to the seventh season and you see the way he changes, and there's one particular, they have this thing called a heist, and every season they have a heist episode where all the police officers are playing a game where they're trying to outsmart each other to become crowned like the genius. And they come up with this one, the heist, and it's going to be the final heist. And the way they do it, and everybody's character motivations, and the beginning of the heist episode, the way there's a bit where it doesn't make any sense if you haven't watched it, but you end up with Jake, Amy, and Captain Holt in a bathroom, all going 9-9 at each other. And it is stupid, it is silly, and it is joyous. I'm like, this is amazing. I miss this show. I think it's great that they ended it when they ended it before it became. But I mean, 7 years they did well, and I understand why they've done it. But it's a kind of show that if they were going to bring this back in 10 years and say where were these characters at in 10 years time, I would not even be mad. I would just want to see what are they up to, what crazy stuff did they get up to after the show ended.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you get a show like that and the characters seem to work with each other, which I mean,
God,
and you nailed it. You nailed it with like with the Marvel films, because I always think like Iron Man and Doctor Strange have always got it's sort of it's a mutual respect, but it's also
there's
you know
Needle.
what I mean? Or,
Yeah, there's
like,
Needle.
like Thor and Star Lord. You know what I mean? They've got that. They've got that. You know, and I really,
Yes,
I think that works really, really well.
Yeah, yeah, I think so, and I think that they've got that. Brooklyn Nine-Nine gets its characters right, get the cast of characters right, and it just nails it. And I love them for it. I absolutely love them for it. So, final season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I would give it a 4. I would give season 7 of Brooklyn Nine a 4. I thought it was brilliant.